Hey folks, welcome back to the Jim Handy channel. And if you're new here, thanks for stopping by to check out the video. This is part 2 of what is ultimately going to be a 3-part series on a budget kitchen makeover that I'm helping out with. My son and his fiance wanted to redo their kitchen, wanted to try and save some money doing it. So I stepped in to give them a hand and some guidance, and of course they're putting in a little bit of sweat equity into it. So in any event, this is part 2. I'll put a picture up of the state of things from part 1, and I'll also put a link in the description to part 1 of this video, and you can see what transpired there. It was a lot of demo and that kind of thing, and getting a countertop installed and a sink and some various other things. And in this video, we're going to tackle the tile, and we're going to start on the cabinet doors. Those are the 2 primary things that part 2 focuses on. And then part 3 will focus on all the finishing touches, tidying everything up and buttoning everything down and finishing up the project. So without any further delay, let's get going. Okay, so the last time we were here, and in part 1, we got our counters installed. I've got them covered up right now because we're getting ready to do some priming. And we also worked up some drywall here, just basically repairing the walls to get them in condition that they would accept tile. So we have drywall installed along the back wall. It was taped and mudded and not sanded, but it was mudded in a way that we don't have to worry about sanding because, again, this is going to be, tile's going to be going up on this. But we do have to prime this wall, and I actually have some primer that I'll show you here shortly. We also have this place on the ceiling that we repaired last time in part 1. And I'm just going to be priming that. That's all been sanded. It's ready to go. It just needs to be primed before we paint. And that's going to be kind of the big thing we do today. We've also taken the doors off. I think that was done in part 1. And I'm going to be gathering up the doors. I still have to take the drawer fronts off here. So I'm going to take the drawer fronts. I'm going to take the drawer fronts and the doors, and I'll be taking those with me. And back at my home in the garage, I'm going to set up a place, and we're going to sand those down and make some modifications to them. And we have some cabinet, very specific cabinet paint. We're going to be painting those. And then before we put the doors up, we have some work to do on the cabinet framing. That has to be sanded, a few holes filled, that kind of thing. And that'll get painted as well. Of course, we installed the sink. Again, I just have all this covered up just to protect the counter. So what I'm going to do first is open up my can of just regular primer, and we're going to prime this ceiling up top here and get going with that.
All right, before we get started with some of the painting and priming and that, just one minor detail that I'm taking care of here, and that's putting in some replacement trim on the left and the right side of the window. If you recall from part 1, I had showed you how this trim didn't go all the way to the top, and it had some weird modification made at the top part of the windows. In any event, I'm just taking care of that right now. Then we're going to get on to priming, prepping the walls, and that kind of thing. So a really handy tool that I'm using to attach this trim, and if you're a do-it-yourselfer, boy, you got to have one of these, and that's a brad nailer. Mine happens to be a little bit of an older one. It's air-powered. They have lots of them that are battery-powered now, which if I had to get a new one, I'd probably get a battery-powered one. But nonetheless, I'll put in the description of the video, I'll put the one that I have, which is air powered. They are pretty nice. They're sometimes can be more powerful even, along with the compressor that I have, which is pretty cool. and then also a link where you can pick up one that is battery powered if you happen to be interested. But it's a great tool to have.
All right, so we're going to stir up a little primer. So we'll just keep giving this a good stir until we get it completely stirred up. And then we'll put it in the tray, get our roller out, and start priming. All right. We don't have a whole lot to do on the ceiling. I'm not going to mess with a big, huge roller. I'm just going to use one of these small ones. I see a couple of spots where I'll have to come back with some drywall compound and just touch up. Nothing major. But for the most part, looks pretty good. All right, so I think we've got that sufficiently primed. So now we can start on our walls. All right, so what we're going to be putting on the walls where the tile's going to go is a product called Eco Prime Grip. And it's a specific type of primer, almost creates like a membrane. And it's, I don't know quite how to describe it. It is basically primer that has some tooth associated with it so that when we start applying the thin set will grip better to the wall with this coating applied. So what we have to do is just get our roller. We'll just use our same roller actually. And we'll start applying this to the walls. All right, so let's open this up. All right, it's kind of a gray material. And it's basically got a silica mixed in with the primer. And that silica is what gives it a little bit of roughness so that our tile will adhere better to the wall. All right. So.
All right, at this point, I've done a little prep work on the cabinet frame, and I'm just using the primer to get an initial coat of primer on that. You can see I've pulled off all the doors and all the drawer fronts, and we'll be working on those here in just a bit. One of the things I did off camera was install this baking pan and cutting board organizer in this cabinet to the right of the dishwasher. This thing is awesome. And I'm going to put a link in the description to where you can pick that up if you're interested in something like that yourself. It's available on Amazon. Ultimately, I'm going to be attaching the door to the front of it, but it'll work for cabinets where the doors swing open as well. All right, so now we're getting ready to start with some layout on the tile. So now we're at the point of doing some tile work. What I've got here is a laser level, and this will cast a laser line on the wall. And so I have this sitting on the counter, and I'll get it perfectly level, and there's a bubble that you line up with a little spot on it. Really, really handy tool. If you do this kind of thing, it's not going to be something you find commonly in a DIYer's bag of tricks, but nonetheless, I'll still put a link to where you can find one of these out on Amazon if you're interested in this. But very cool tool for getting a perfectly level line all the way around the counter so that I know exactly where to place that first row of tile, which in this case, I'm going to have to cut some because this is an older home. Things aren't quite level. We got the countertop as level as we possibly could, but it's not perfect. So hence the need for ensuring that I use a laser line like this to figure out exactly where I want to start that first row of tile, because everything from that point forward will be based off that first row.
So I've laid tile out here. Actually, I did this all the way around. I've pulled some of these up already, but I just laid out the tile to determine exactly where I want the first row, all the joints to be. And we've got that all set. I've got all my marks on the wall, so we've got everything we need on the wall now to go ahead and start putting in this first row. The countertop is not entirely level. We'll have a full tile here. This is not common, or not uncommon, I should say, in an older home. So full tile there, and you can see over here, we're gonna be about 2/3 of a tile. There we go, about 2/3 of a tile. So, but it's important that we do that cutting on the first row so that everything above that ends up being nice and straight and level. And that will all kind of fade into the background. Shouldn't be really that noticeable, but it is what it is. And short of ripping out the base cabinets, and starting from scratch, which certainly is an option. We just have to work with the what we have, and so we'll make it work.
All right, so I've jumped ahead. I've actually got some tile put in place already. You'll see me applying some more here in a moment. But I thought I would let you know the type of tile we're using. It's an actual real stone. It's travertine, 3-inch by 6-inch size tile. It's this Corvina brand. We picked it up at a local tile store. And as far as the adhesive for this kind of tile, we're using this stone and tile adhesive.
Well, as you can see, we are well on our way to tiling. We've been, we did the layout a couple of days ago to get that first row in, and now we're just working vertically. So I'm kind of working on these end walls. To start, I'm just getting that up to a comfortable height from standing from the floor. At some point I'll have to get a step stool. But I've got a few more rows to go on this one, and then we'll start on the back wall here. We'll get that up. We won't get done today. Again, this is kind of a sweat equity thing, and I'm helping out. So I'll get as far along as I can, but you can see I think it's looking pretty nice. And anxious to get this done. I think it's going to look really good and contrast nicely with the butcher block countertop, which right now is covered in cardboard for obvious reasons. Now, I may have mentioned that we were going to put a membrane. In fact, I think I even showed this. So this has a lot of tooth to it. It's almost like, it feels like concrete. And that was that, again, that special membrane that we painted on before we started our tile work. So that seems to be doing its job really well. And of course, we have the adhesive we're using is designed specifically for stone. So this process is actually going pretty smoothly. We've made some cuts off camera, but I am just buttering. I'm using a 1/4-inch notch trowel and buttering the back of these things. And then another thing that I'm doing every so often, in spite of the fact that we started out with the first course of tile being perfectly level, there can be variances in the width of these. So occasionally we do have to take a level and pop that on there and just see how we're doing, and we are spot on. Absolutely perfect. So pleased with that. This process goes fairly quickly once you get going. The cuts will slow you down a little bit. Not installing them, just the measuring and the time it takes to have to run outside to the tile saw. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm just buttering the back of those.
Okay, I think it's worthwhile that I jump in here and mention a few things. One, I have a rag. You can't see it off camera, but I've been using it to just dampen the backside of these tiles before I actually apply the tile adhesive. That's number one. Number two, you'll notice I'm not putting any tile adhesive on the wall itself. And there's probably somebody out there screaming right now saying, why aren't you doing that? I'm telling you, in this case, you do not have to do that. This membrane that I have painted on has no absorption qualities whatsoever. And by back buttering this tile and just using the right amount of pressure, you'll get a perfectly good adhesion to that wall without having to go to the excess work of buttering the wall itself. So hope that makes sense. Lastly, I'm using little plastic 1/8 inch. They're T-shaped spacers between the ends of the tile, and the way they're made is I just put them in between at the tops, in between each tile, and that helps with both the horizontal and the vertical spacing. All right, so we pretty much have all the walls surface covered with tile. Of course, where the junction box or former electrical panel was located, we still have to deal with that. That's going to be actually in part 3, which is going to be the final part in this series. I'll show how I handle that. And other than that, the next step is going to be to come back once this is set up really well and do the grouting. But right now we're going to move forward and we're going to focus on getting the cabinet doors painted, or at least starting that process.
So here's our doors and our drawer fronts that we've taken off the cabinets, and a bit dirty, just kind of worn. We're going to be sanding these down and getting them ready to paint. And the kind of paint we're going to be using is this Benjamin Moore Advance, and it's a satin finish. It's supposed to be really durable and provide almost a factory-like finish. It is made specifically for cabinets, doors, and trim. So that's what we're going to be using paint-wise. That's pretty expensive paint too. I think that was close to $80 for a gallon. So it better be good for that much. So there we go. So let's get us a table set up, and we'll get these doors and drawer fronts set up, and we'll get our little palm sander out, and we'll start some sanding. All these doors and the drawer fronts, of course, have holes where handles used to be. We're going to be filling all of those. Same thing with the drawer fronts. And then we have, in this case, the laminate is coming off. So we're just going to glue that back down. I think we'll be fine. And again, once we get these sanded down, make sure everything is good and intact, we should be good to go. All right, it's next day, and I think where we left off yesterday was filling the little holes where the old hardware used to be in the doors. So we're going to need to sand that down and work on those a little bit. We did have one door panel, however, that didn't have any holes in it at all. So I decided to go ahead and get our paint out and put one coat of paint on this door just to get a sense of what that looks like, and I'll show you that now. Now the color is probably not going to show up very good on this. In fact, let me turn this light off. It's kind of a butter cream is what I'm calling the color, but and again, it's just going to be really hard to tell, but it is unbelievably smooth. It looks like a factory finish. And that was just applying it with the little kind of a foam roller. And again, this is the paint that we're using. It's a satin finish, but holy cow, it's just amazing. So I had read that this product was really good, and it's all the reviews were excellent on it, but it's kind of blowing me away. So I'll put actually a second and final coat on this today. And again, this is kind of our test piece. I won't get around to painting the other bits, I don't think, today. But that's just kind of a process in and of itself. When you do use this paint, it's a little bit of a dragged out process. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but once you have your cabinet doors, drawer fronts in that ready for paint, you put one coat on them, and then it takes about 6 or 7 hours for these things to dry to the touch. Now, actually, it was a little less, was my experience, but that's what the can says. There's instructions on the can says 6 to 7 hours. 6 to 7 hours. And then it says wait 16 hours before recoating. So we're good there. And when you think about that, you got to have a nice place to lay these out. It needs to be dust free. So again, it's a little bit involved, but the results are unbelievable, and it's worth every bit of the effort and every bit of the cost for the paint here. So let me get set up, and we'll do some sanding. That's where we filled little holes and things. So we're going to get that sanded down and see what we need to do to get these things up to a point where they're ready for paint. So we have a couple of other repairs we need to make. As you can see, this is, let's see if I can get this up here where you can see it. That's kind of coming off there. So all we're going to do is take some super glue, yeah, right there, and we're going to put some super glue underneath here and get that sealed back down. All right, we'll just press that down, hold that a little bit. By the way, this is amazing super glue. So I'll put a link in the video if you're interested in having some of the best super glue you've ever used around for whatever chore you might need it for. This is definitely what I would recommend. Not sponsored by these people or anything. It's just what I have come to find to be the best super glue out there. There, okay. Now, I'm gonna get some tape, put some tape over this just to ensure that that stays down. What we'll do is use some painter's tape, put a couple of strips across here. All right, now we're going to set this aside. And we have one other, this is another repair that's going to have to be made. We have a little bit of a chip off here. So I'm going to have to work on that separately, create like a little edging here and here to create a dam, and then fill that with some wood filler. We'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so here's the door. It has the issue with the piece of laminate on the back. You can see that's definitely going to need some super glue. All right. All right, so we made quite a bit of progress, got all the tile done. We've made a lot of progress on the cabinet doors. And those are the two main things. That getting that wall tiled was a big job, obviously. So good progress. When we get to part 3, which is going to be the last part, we're going to be tackling the shelving that's going to go up on the wall. We're going to be mounting the cabinet doors, and you'll see a neat little modification that I will be making to those. And we'll just be buttoning everything up and getting new hardware on the doors, that kind of thing, and just finishing everything up. So hope you liked this video. If you did, I greatly appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up. Greatly helps the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. It's free, and that helps the channel too. So with that, hope everybody has a great day, great rest of your week. And with that, we'll see you on the next video. Bye.